I've just taken delivery of the new Hanzo, so Factor's new TT bike, which, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, is still kind of a prototype. Like, Factor have rushed this bike in a time frame that is, within the cycling industry, pretty mind-boggling. And I think, like I said before, Factor have their own factory, so I think the team have enough frame sets for almost everyone, and being a specialist, I'm lucky enough to get one. The team have sent it to me, built, it's been bolted together, and I'm gonna get it set up for me now to ride, and then work out what I need to do to get it really set up to race. I'm kind of gonna talk you through it, because I'd imagine this video will be, like, I'm a time trial specialist, I'm a lead out specialist as well. I mean, I'm a cycling specialist, I'm an all-rounder, but kind of certainly the time trial is my passion. So whilst filming this a little while ago, I was actually dealing with a case of identity fraud. My details, name, date of birth, approximate location are pretty easy to find, and that's unique to being a professional athlete. Someone was trying to buy a bed on hire purchase, but luckily we got on top of it quick. So I guess now more than ever I need to say thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring yet another tech video. So for those of you who followed this for a while will know, if you're new to it, Surfshark is a virtual private network, which is also known as a VPN. And like I said, from personal experience, here are 4 reasons why I think you need a VPN. So the first reason is it hides your IP address. So your city, country, and download history are not linked to your identity. Number 2, it helps encrypt all your data and keep it safe. So like your credit card history, your personal information, which is especially important when you are on public Wi-Fi. And if you travel a lot, the chances are you're logging into like dodgy hotel Wi-Fi. So you can change your location easily, so you can jump into GCN Race Pass or anything that's geo-blocked from wherever you are. Like for example, Surfshark can unlock more than 15 Netflix libraries globally. And the last reason is Surfshark uses encryption to protect you against snooper and third-party advertisers. So your data's not being sold on, and subsequently you're not going to be inundated with pesky online dating pop-ups.
Porn!
Yes, my deal still very much is running. You need to use the code DOWSET, all in capitals. Surfshark offer a 30-day money-back guarantee as well, so there's nothing to lose here. The link and everything you need to know is in the description below. Start at the front, we've got Factor's own, or Blackink's own, I'm not sure who owns 51 Speed Shop, but we've got those bars on there. At some point I will change them for either something custom, or the Watch Shop bars, which I have a set of, or Zab's Aero Coach bars, which I have a set of as well. It's going to be a case of what fits, what's most comfortable, what's most aero. The handlebars are never as important as people think they are. Like the speed bar stuff, the custom stuff, that's all fitted to your arm. Aerodynamically, because of what happens behind, they're not as crucial as you think. So yeah, often the sort of the ones that cup your arms are there more for support than to give you support all the way over, because the UCI there's a limit on how big your pad can be. So if you can support it under the wrist as well, then just having a bit more support and security in that front end, that's the main part of why a custom handlebar is preferable. The key features with this bike is it's called the Hanzo because Hanzo was the blade in Kill Bill, and that's the reason. That there is 15 millimeters wide, and that goes all the way up. So your fork is one piece into like a bayonet into the mono riser for your tri-bars. We're very narrow, but we're also very wide on this. You can see the forks, there's a huge amount of clearance, and the reason for that is to separate the interaction from the wheel and the fork. So if you've got a narrow fork, you have to be very careful with which wheel you stick in the front because of interaction between wheel and fork. When you separate it, if you've got a fast wheel, it's going to be fast in this bike. It's not going to shit itself because it doesn't work well with the fork. So the idea of this is to separate wheel and fork. This isn't like the Hope Lotus, which is to put the fork in front of the rider's legs. which is great until you get high yaw, which obviously you don't get on the track, but you may get on the road. So we'll move back a bit. Obviously you've got the continuation of this real thin piece, and you can see this is the steerer tube basically over the front of the headset and into this piece here. All of your cables run down the back of here, so there's, in terms of internal cabling, it's pretty good. Hydraulic disc brakes, we've got my chainring shifters underneath here. These will shift the sprockets, these will shift the chain rings, and obviously sprocket shifters on the end there. Move back, obviously the frame widens a fair bit. This frame is built around the aero bottle that every manufacturer seems to make, and they all kind of look the same. Ours are from Elite, and so that fills this gap nicely. That is why this is widened, and you've got your junction box in there as well, which is a neat touch. Yeah, so around the bottom bracket area, there's less material than there is on the slick. The slick sort of came up to roughly here, and there was a lot of it. So they've refined this a little bit. And then we'll move, same seat post as the slick, and I've got this Selle Italia TT saddle on. And yeah, the rear stays, very thin, very deep. And this is one thing that Factor have been able to do. The UCI have relaxed some of the 3-to-1 rule. That's how this has been managed. And also here is deeper than the 3-to-1 rule. And obviously it's all been signed off by the UCI, so it's legit. What I need to do is pretty simple. Just need to make sure setback seat saddle height's correct, because as you can see, there's a neat little sticker that says need to position for Dowsett. Need to maybe adjust the height of the tri-bars and the tilt possibly as well. Just get that dialed in, and the reach, which is generally on the UCI limit for me. So yeah, unfortunately what has happened is the team have sent the bike with 172.5 cranks, which I use 170, so I'm going to pop these off, put another set of cranks on, which I have here until the team can get some other 170 sort of 4-eye power meter cranks to me. So I've got another set of cranks power meter to bolt on in the meantime. And I'm kind of undecided if I'm going to stick my isometrics on for training or not. Again, I said I'd do a video on isometrics, and I will, but I like to swap quite a lot between isometric and round, because I think that's where the benefit is. So yeah, that's your quick rundown of the bike. Let's go. Alright, so this is what we've got to play with. Cranks to go on, the old watch shop setup, and the aero coach setup just here. This has come off my slick. There's no way of getting any of this on right now onto that mono riser, because just none of it's set up. Need some kind of adapter plate to either fix these or these on. Like I said, I've got no idea which ones I'm going to use. But yeah, luxury of the choice, hey? And we're just about at a point where it's rideable. As with always working on a TT bike, no matter how good the TT bike is, and this is a good one, it's never a quick job, and it is never simple. So handlebar setup was simple, saddle height setback was simple. I'm pretty sure this bike was used, I think in the Tour, maybe by Froome or by Andre, I'm not sure, because it's got the transponder swimming cap on it, and it's got a transponder holder for a UCI transponder jig on the back as well. So it's not a new bike, but yeah, so I've adjusted the saddle height, adjusted the bars, and put isometric chain rings on, which is not a walk in the park. I'm on a 56, ideally a 58 on the front, because the bigger the chain ring with isometric, the more kind of purchase you get. But the problem with living not in Essex is I can't run a massive little ring either. I've got to run, I mean ideally something in the 30s, but I've had to settle for around 42 to get the range, and two adapters to move the front derailleur backwards. So it's not pretty. I can't use all the gears, but I've got the gears that I want, so that's the important thing. And if I faff around with this too much, I'm not going to get out training today. I've looked briefly at the watch shop and the Aero Coach bars. I mean, with some pretty rugged dremeling of existing pieces I've got, I could put them together and get them on, but I think I'm gonna work on getting something fancier made to get at least a set of bars on there. But these will do for now. I could maybe put the watch shop pads on with a bit of just a bit of cutting and moving some holes around, but otherwise I can make this work. We got rolling. So far so good, but about a minute and a quarter into the ride, so haven't got the saddle height completely wrong. Once we get rolling on a fast road, I'll check the see if the handlebars are in kind of more or less the right place, and then have a look at myself in some shop windows, make sure the body is pretty level, and then go back and remeasure later, I guess. Just make sure nothing's slipped, nothing's loosened. On a flat road, and yeah, everything seems fine. I mean, I guess I'm making this sound much easier than it is, but I've set up a few TT bikes in my time now, so I don't rush to get out the door on it until it's right, for the sake of an extra day or two of setup. Yeah, it feels pretty close. Next test will be an effort, but perhaps not today. It's just a steady ride today. I'll get a rough idea of, when I get home, how my hip flexors feel, how my hamstrings feel. It's kind of like my body. It's very, well, it's quite tuned to a TT position, so kind of sends off a few red flags if something's grossly out. If it doesn't set it off in the ride, it'll set it off afterwards. So yeah, so far, so good. One-handed time trialing. Hello. Okay, so a couple of days later from setting up this bike, and honestly, done a pretty good job, I think. I put it through its paces. It's been doing uphills, downhills, and everything in between, and it's performed like sublimely, and I'm happy with the position that I set up on it, because I had some measurements to go by, yeah, which were pretty good, but without an actual jig, which I don't have here. It's a tape measure, the floor, and the bike mounted on a turbo trainer. So it's a little bit rudimentary, but I feel like I can kind of feel it as well. And you know, when you're out on the road, just looking in shop windows at your position is, I think it's something all pro cyclists do, isn't it? Or all cyclists. So yeah, like, I mean, not really much to report now. The only tip I will give you, and there's actually some science behind it, is time trial bikes are hugely stressful to set up. Doesn't matter if it's the easiest bike in the world, they are enormously stressful to set up. The day that I set this up, I went to go do intervals and I couldn't do the first one. And I spoke to my coaches and they were like, "What's up?" And I said, "Oh, just a bit stressed. I had all morning, like 3 hours setting up my TT bike." And they're like, "Oh yeah, that'll do it. Don't ever try and train after doing that." So there was very much a link between stress and power output, and I had a lot of stress and very little power output. But it was one of the lesser stressful bikes that I've ever had to set up. Since we set this up though, we've made some progress on the handlebars. I mean, this is a very good, I'm super, as far as like stock standard off the peg setups can't go by, this is very good. Like it's pretty clean, not dissimilar to the Cervelo P5 sort of mono riser and then bars hanging out the front. You know, like Tom Dumoulin got second in the Olympics with a setup like this. But I do have either the Watch Shop or the Aero Coach bars, which I'm wanting to put on. And I think after talking to Aero Coach, they're going to make a mount specific to this bike to put their bars on, which, which should be good. That'll serve me well. By the time you watch this video, I would have raced on it. I'm doing a 25 mile TT on the weekend. Put this through its paces. I'll steal a disc in a deep section off the team. And yeah, early Sunday morning, out Cambridge way, do a TT. So I'll have to put a rear light on, take the saddlebag off. I'll get a wax chain for it as well. And yeah, see what numbers we can punch out. Because you can work roughly your CDA out if you know your rolling resistance and conditions. The only problem with the British races is you do have the aid of traffic flow, which will bring your CDA, it will make your CDA look better than it is. So we'll take that into account, but I will be able to get a rough idea of just how good this bike is, because I know where I'm at in my skin suit, my helmet and stuff, but the bike is obviously the change. And something I didn't say before, my biggest disappointment in this actually is the name. Like, it's a cool name, Hanzo, but the old Factor TT bike was called the Slick. I was just hoping they were going to call this the Slicker, and then there'd be a third iteration called the Slickest. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. I would recommend going to a bike fitter if you are not knowing where to start with a TT bike. I'm quite experienced in the time trial, so I kind of know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing with a TT bike as well. They're all kind of the same, all a little bit different though. Once you get your head around it, you can generally work it out. But if you haven't got a clue where to start with a TT bike, I would recommend finding someone that does, because they can be an absolute minefield.